Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So today, inshallah, we are going to talk about listening, which is actually the last skill we're going to focus on. So, so you need to know some details about listening, and also you need to be familiar with the techniques and the tricks that might be used, for example, in IELTS exam. So first of all, we have here, as you can see, so we have 4 sections. So in listening, we have 4 sections. And we have 10 questions in each section. 10 questions in each section. Okay, so we have 4 sections, 10 questions in each section. The questions actually get more difficult as actually the test progresses. The more you go further, the difficult will be like the exam, or the difficult the exam will be. All right, so they will start from the easy part till, for example, the most difficult part, which is part number 4. Part number 4 is the most difficult one. I mean, comparing to part number 1. When we say it is difficult, it doesn't mean that it is complicated or arduous. It is difficult comparing to part number 1, 2, and 3. Because sometimes in the last part, they will not give you some time to think. Because you have some time to think before each question you deal with. But actually in part number 4, the last question, actually you won't be able to read the question. That's why it is really tough. And also because it is like a lecture, muhadara, so that's why it is only one person actually who's speaking. So it's more or less difficult. The test lasts approximately 30 minutes. So you will listen to the audio just for 30 minutes only. And then they will give you actually 10 minutes extra to write the answers or transfer the answers to the answer sheet. Okay, so you have 30 minutes to listen to the audio and then 10 minutes to transfer the answers to the answer sheet. Because it is really difficult to transfer the answers at the same time. Because if you transfer the answers to the answer sheet, actually you won't be able to listen to the audio. That's why they will give you extra 10 minutes to write the answers at the end. And we have each recording is played only once. So you won't be able to listen, for example, another time. It is only one time. You need to listen, you need to focus on, and you need to write everything. Otherwise, you won't be able to listen to it again. You won't be able to listen to it again. And yeah, as I said before, you will have 10 minutes at the end to transfer the answers. So let's go to, first of all here, section number 1. Section number 1. So it is a conversation between 2 people within a social everyday context. So task number 1 or part number 1 is going to be a conversation between 2 persons. And the topic that they're going to talk about, it is a social context. Social, it deals with everyday, for example, issues. It is not like educational or academic. It is not an academic nature. It is like everyday speech, talking about something that may happen, for example, in the real life. Section number 2, actually, it is normally sometimes one or two, like one person speaking in a social everyday context. It is only one person who talks about like speaking in an everyday also context. Only one person. Number three, actually, we have a conversation between two or more people within an education context. Usually part number three, deals with two persons and within like an education context. Maybe about school, about university, about like lectures, about schedules, about anything has something to do with education. And the last one actually, which is, as I told you before, the most difficult one comparing to 1, 2, 3, is section number 4. It is a lecture. It is like a professor or like a doctor in the university, and he explains the class. It is like me now, who I'm talking and you're just listening. Only one person is speaking. And like he narrates as like a story. And you're supposed to follow him and write some notes or complete the questions, or you try to choose the correct answer. It depends like on the questions that will be given in the exam. So a lecture normally on an academic subject. Yeah, it is like a university. So the topic is going to be from an academic nature. Academic nature. All right, so summary. So we have 4 parts. 2 parts are social, number 1 and 2. Part number 3 is educational. Part number 4, actually, it is from an academic nature. From an academic nature. So we have actually here some listening tips. First of all, these tips are simply to give you an introduction to IELTS listening. Actually, no need just to focus on them only. You need to practice more and try to talk about techniques as well. But actually, it helps you just to be much more alert, like in the future. Okay, so what are they, for example? Practice listening to both one person and multiple people speaking. I tried my best to remind you to listen like every now and then to listening in order to practice while we used to teach like speaking or writing or reading before. I told you try to get used to, for example, British accent. Actually, it is not that difficult because comparing to American accent, British accent is much more like easier because they talk step by step. American accent, actually, they use assimilation, damj al-aswat, and they talk actually really fast. So actually, you won't be able to catch every single word. British accent, you need to focus like on the pronunciation because there is no very large difference between American and British accent. It is maybe 10 or 15%, but usually the words will be more or less the same. So first of all, try to get used to one person and multiple people actually talking. Get used to this. Okay, so this is number 1. Number 2, be careful with your spelling. To be honest, like the words that will be given like in the listening exam, they are not like reading. Reading is really hard, right? And sometimes if you didn't write the word correctly, your answer is going to be marked incorrect. But actually in listening, the words are easy, everyday like words. So this is a problem actually if you want to be able to write the spelling correctly. So you need to write the spelling as they are mentioned, for example, in the listening. And sometimes, they're going to tell you the letters, the sounds, all right, the numbers. They're going to say it letter by letter, number by number. So you need to be like you need to be careful like of writing actually the spelling of the word. I know even just one letter حتى لو كانت الكلمة حرف فقط تحتسب غلط. All right. If it is like only one letter, maybe, sometimes we have singular pronouns and plural, or we have a singular name and plural names. Like maybe in the audio, they said cats or cars with us. And then you write it as car or cat as a singular. So your answer is going to be marked incorrect. That's why you need to focus carefully about what is being, like, for example, said in like the audio. All right, so before like each task, like task number 1, task number 2, task number 3, and also the beginning of task number 4, you will be given some time to think, like to read the instructions, to read the questions. And this time actually is more or less half a minute. And sometimes they give you a few seconds actually to check your questions. So in these breaks, don't read the question. I mean, don't check your answers. Okay. So for example, task number 1, you just solved the questions. All right. They will give you some time to check your answers. No need to check your answers. Try to read like the following, for example, question, the next question, because understanding the question is very important in order to help you actually to answer the questions. When you read actually deeply and try to understand what is being asked, actually you will be, for example, much more comfortable, and also will be much more focused on like in the exam. فالمساحة هذه اللي بتعطى لك الدقائق القليلة أو الثواني المعدودة، هذا حاول أنك بقدر الإمكان تقرأ الأسئلة، ولا داعي أنك تعود مرة ثانية تشيك إجاباتك. خلاص ما في داعي، لأنه listening no reading، يعني إنه عندك passage أو source تجي عليها. خلاص جاوبت أنت وحظك. حاول أنك تستغل الدقائق أو الثواني هذا في قراءة الأسئلة اللي بعد. Okay. Try to predict the answer before you hear the recording. Sometimes while you're reading actually the question, you try to predict. You still remember reading when you started like reading, and we have to complete the summary. We said like sometimes you can predict that this one is going to be noun, this one is going to be a verb, this one is going to be an adjective, like this. So sometimes you predict what is going to be the answer. I know it is prediction. Yeah, it is not usually true, but actually just you predict what is going to be the answer. The prediction actually it helps you actually sometimes to answer the questions. أنه عادة أحيانا ربما تتوه، ربما يعني تضيع في بين الأصوات. ربما أنت مركز على الكلمة تظن أن الكلمة راح تنطق في الأوديو، والشخص المتحدث ربما سيذهب عليك. فهنا خلاص ما عاد تشغل عندك الايماجينيشن، البريدكشن، التنبؤ. انت منتظر لثلاثه مثلا، والاكزامينر او الشخص يعني اللي بيتحدث في الاوديو قد انتقل، قد في 4 بس ما سمعت انت. فهنا خلاص لازم تعمل education guess، يعني تخمين تعليمي علمي هكذا بناء على معلوماتك انت، وخلاص تواكب، مو تجلس تنتظر لما يروح عليك وتضيع الفقرات كلها. By the way, listening is really easy. It is not difficult. So, but actually it needs a lot of training. You need to practice. Those people actually who usually listen, I think they will not be in the trap like of listening. But those people actually who don't listen, I don't know, like, because listening, you're dealing with the common words and like social context, and also you will complete numbers, dates, numbers, for example, choose the correct answers, like easy. But actually, if you're not like into listening and you don't listen, you need to train, you need to practice more. Otherwise, you will find it maybe according to you is difficult. Also, here we have, if your answers are not grammatically correct, you will tell me, teacher, you said before just the answer is going to be maybe 1 or 2 words. How come, like grammar? We're going to write sentences? No, you're not going to write sentences in the IELTS exam, either actually in reading or listening, or yeah, reading and listening. There are no sentences, ما في جمل. يعني أكبر شيء راح تكتبه 3 كلمات. طيب شو يعني grammatically correct? As I told you before, the S sometimes, the plural and singular forms, هذا يعتبر grammar. If you said, for example, car, not cars, like your sentence or your answer is going to be marked as incorrect. فتركز على الجمع والمفرد والأشياء هذه كلها، مو القواعد يعني. يعني ما في مثلا جملة راح تدخل في listening وأنت تكتبها، هي كلمة أو كلمتين بس. عادة قد ربما في الأوديو يكون جمع وأنت تكتبه مفرد، والعكس صحيح، والعكس صحيح. طيب read the instructions very carefully. Yeah, so you need to read the instructions. Like if they tell you, for example, to write one word, you need to just write one word. All right, if you don't focus actually on the instructions and you write 2 words, even if your answer is correct, it will be incorrect. Because IELTS exam is an exam of instructions. هو اختبار يعني instructions، إرشادات. فإذا كسرت الإرشادات هذا وخرجت عن المطلوب أكيد راح تنقص. أكيد راح تنقص. Improve your vocab and you will improve your listening score. Try to be familiar with the common words, for example, in English, and those people actually who talk about several topics. خليك مألوف يعني في شوية الكلمات المتداولة في listening على أساس ترفع درجتك. Get used to listening to things only once. Try to train yourself just to listen only one time. To listen only one time. Don't say, okay, I'll stop, I'll return back. I'm gonna give you like the, for example, the way. First of all, you need to listen to the audience only, to like the voice. I mean, to the audience, just you listen only one time. And then write the answers. After that, you can download, for example, the file. ممكن تحمل الملف، تمام؟ وبعدين ترجع تشغل الأوديو وأنت بتشوف. أنا بعلم لك الطريقة. وبعدين ارجع مرة ثانية اسمعها مع الكتابة. شوف كيف نطق الكلمات، تغير نطق الكلمات عندك اللي في راسك اللي كنت معتقد اني صح، وبنفس الوقت تشوف وين التريكس والحيل والخدع اللي دائما يستخدموها في الليسننج. احنا سناخذها طبعا، ولكن اول مره حاول انك تتعود انك تسمع الليسننج مره واحده بس، انت وحظك، عشان تبرمج عقلك انه خلاص مره واحده. وبعدين ارجع مره ثانيه شوف اخطائك واسمع الاوديو مع السبتايتلز اللي هو العناوين، واعلمكم ان شاء الله كيف. طيب okay, let's see the first one. So the questions actually, we have, for example, summary completion. You just complete the summary. This is like one of the, for example, questions that are going to be included in the exam. And we have, for example, multiple choice. Today we're going to take 2, and then we will try to apply them. 2, and then we apply them. Multiple choice. ترى الإجابة الصحيحة. Let's have a look here, for example. Sometimes matching, for example, or choose the correct answer could be, for example, a short answer. Let me just make zoom because in the video actually it will not be clear. Maybe a short answer قد ربما كلمة أو كلمتين يكون اختيارات، أو قد ربما تكون sentence, like sentence completion, like one sentence as in a sentence form, or maybe a picture. So there will be like one question and 3 pictures. And according to listening, you will know like which one is the correct one. Which one is the correct one. ركز على المعلومات الحين. For example, the common problems. هذه واحدة من المشاكل. Choose the correct answer. 1. Often all the choices will be mentioned. All the choices will be mentioned. Okay. Not just the correct answer. فالتريك هنا don't pick the first one. لا تلقط أي واحدة أول مرة تسمعها، هذه معناها أن الإجابة الخطأ. أول حاجة تسمعها فهي المعلومة الخطأ. Okay. For example, where would you like to go? تحت مثلا zoo, garden, hospital. Let's say 3 words. And also in the audio, they will say, for example, where would you like to go? Before I decided to go to the zoo, but I'm going to go to the hospital. إذن الإجابة ستكون hospital, is not the zoo. فالمعلومات الثلاث راح يكونن موجودات او ثنتين راح يكونن موجودات، وهم يعطوا هذه التريك طبعا في كل الاختيارات اكيد، عشان يشوفوا هل الطالب هو سيأخذ بس اول كلمه، لانه في طلاب يلقط كلمات، وفي طلاب يلقط جمل، وفي طلاب يلقط محتوى، يعني يسمع للاخير وبدا يعرف يعني ايش يعني what they are talking about. وفي طلاب لانه حافظ كلمات فقط، مجرد ما يسمع الكلمه خلاص يكتبها يظن ان هي اجابه صحيحه. بس غالبا الاختيارات سيكون الثلاث الاختيارات موجوده، فاول شيء تسمعه لا تعمل هو الصح، ليس هو الصحيح، حاول تسمع للاخير، حاول تسمع للاخير. And also the answers will normally be synonyms or paraphrases. Yeah, you might hear, for example, the same words like as they are written, for example, in the choices, but also like you might hear them like in another way. But remember, the way is going to be easy because you are dealing with common words. كلمات سهلة مو زي الريدنج يعني. البارaphrasing غريب جدا لأنه لغة أكاديمية. لا السبيكينج يعني بتحصل مثلا for example what time for example do they leave مثلا، ومكتوب هناك departure مثلا ولا arriver. alright مثلا عندما يقول لك for example they start the class at blah 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 يغيرها مثلا commences ولا begins، المهم يغير لك طريقة ثانية، بس الكلمات تظل يعني تفهمها، يعني مو انك توصل لمرحلة انك ما تعرف، لو عندك طبعا لغات لا بأس. And also the three choices also look similar in meaning. Okay. You must read a lot of information and listen at the same time. So let's see, for example, here, how can we deal, for example, choose the correct answer. First of all, this is like, for example, here, the tips. Don't check your answers from the previous section. When you have a break, it is important that you read the next multiple choice questions and try to understand them. احنا قد قلنا انه اذا كان عندك وقت، مثلا يعطاك وقت يقول لك عشان تشيك اجاباتك، لا تشيك اجابتك اللي حليتها خلاص، حاول انك تقرا السكشن اللي بعد، الاسئله اللي بعد عشان تفهم السؤال، تكون سهل عليك انك تجيب عليه في الامتحان. بعدين highlight keywords. The keyword in the question will help you answer the question correctly. Just you read, for example, the question. I mean, in the exam, you read the main question. ترى الإجابة الصحيحة. اقرأ السؤال. وبعدين you might, for example, like highlight the keywords. الkeyword قد يكون أداة السؤال. أول شيء مثلا what, where, who, how. أو قد تكون كلمة مهمة جدا في السؤال. كلمة مهمة جدا في السؤال. بعدين actually the keyword in the question will help you to answer the questions correctly. The keywords in the different options are those, for example, that you differentiate meaning between the choices. يعني معناها إنه الآن تقرأ السؤال وتأخذ كلمة أو كلمتين، وبعدين تقرأ الخيارات وحاول إنك تأخذ كلمة من كل خيار اللي راح يفرق ما بين الخيار الأول والثاني. Okay. For example, you read, for example, who wants to go to, for example, or like where the person wants to go, or where does the person want to go. فبتأخذ كلمة مثلا hospital, you take it like you put it in your mind, a clinic and so on. تعرف إنه في سؤال، في كلمة في السؤال وفي كلمات في الخيارات، على أساس بينما أنت تسمع هذا الموجودات في الخيارات في رأسك. Don't write the first answer you hear, as I told you before. Remember that they will try and trick you. أول شيء تسمعه يعني بنسبة 90% هي الإجابة الخطأ. بس ربما مرة تكون صحيحة، وأنا قد سمعت كثير إنه أحيانا تأتي مرة الإجابة الأولى هي الصحيحة، بس 90% أو 95% أول شيء سينطق هو الخطأ. Okay. Don't spend too much time on one question. If you didn't get the answer, all right, or you are unsure, make an educated guess and move on. خلاص. Don't wait, for example, and stop until the time finishes. Try actually to answer the question. If you feel that, for example, the person who talks has already passed, خلاص خمن وامشي بعده. لأنك لو بقيت منتظر بدل ما تضيع فقرة واحدة أكيد بتضيع اللي بعد واللي بعد واللي بعد. فأنت ضيع فقرة واحدة واعمل تخمين وشيء. مو مشكلة إنك تغلط بواحدة أو ثنتين، ما راح ترسب يعني. المشكلة إنك تبقى واقف عند الثلاثة وتظن إنه لسه ما جاء لسه ما جاء لسه ما جاء، والمتحدث قد هرب وقد ربما يكون جابها بسينونيمز أو مترادفات. So be careful if you hear words like but. This is very important and it will be included in the exam also. But and however. إذا سمعتهن تأكد إن الشطر الأول خطأ. دائما. Oh I'm sorry. هذا الثلاث. I'm sorry, however, and but. إلا مجين يعني دائما. Last time, for example, we wanted to go, for example, to Linkawi, but خلاص but هذه تتحض ما قبلها. إذن but this time actually we're going to go to some place or to some other places. فدائما but however sorry عادة يعني tricks they're used as tricks عشان تعرف هل راح تركز على الشطر الأول فقط وأنت خليك منتبه. ومجرد ما تسمع but امسح الأول خلاص. Or however or so on. Practice makes perfect, of course. Like practice actually today's lesson or once like for example the first time you listen, it is completely will be different from the third, the fourth, the fifth, the 10th for example times. Actually every day you will make a difference. كل يوم سيكون عندك اختلاف. إذا أنت بتستمع كل يوم. أكيد اليوم الأول سيكون سيء، اللي بعد شوي أفضل كذا كذا كذا، ومع تنوع الأوديوز actually you're going to be maybe much more better, like for example in listening. Your answer will often be a letter not a word. هذا common sense يعتبر إنه مسلمات. فأنت أكيد راح تكتب حرف مو كلمة. A علي، B محمد، C قاسم. أكيد راح تكتب A أو B أو C. مو معقول انك تكتب محمد، لو كانت الاجابه صحيحه تكتب حروف يعني مو كلمه. So your answer will be often like a letter not a word. Read the instructions to make sure and be careful when transferring your answers at the end. وعندما تنقل الاجابات في الاخير ركز A B C يعني لا تغلط. مثلا عند النقل ربما تنقل 2 في 3 3 في 1 فتخليك مركز. اذا read the instruction carefully. This is number 1. Read the questions and identify what is actually being asked. Highlight one word in the question. Read actually the options. Highlight one word, like for example in each option في كل خيار. Think about the synonyms. فكر في المترادفات بينما أنت تقرأ الأسئلة، لأن عندك نصف دقيقة. اقرأ الأسئلة وحاول تركز على الاختلافات بالخيارات. حاول إنك تخمن الإجابة مع إنه شوي ربما بالنسبة لك صعب، مو زي الريدنج. يعني في الليسننج انك تخمن وتقرا على الاسئله ويكون عندك وقت، ما عندك وقت، بس حاول انك تخمن الاجابه ايش ممكن تكون يعني من قراءتك. When the listening, for example, when listening, listen for any keywords and synonyms. حاول تسمع مثلا who على طول تعرف ان الاجابه ستكون اسم. Where هتكون مكان. How, who for example. What time هيكون وقت. Number مثلا when. فهكذا تعرف. Don't write the first answer you hear وقد قلناها. انتبه تنقل، خاصة أقصد في اللي يختار الإجابة الصحيحة أول شيء سيكون خطأ. يعني زي ما قلت لك بنسبة 95، لأنه مرة تسمع يعني إنه الإجابة تكون 1 خاصة في part number 3 or number 4. All right. If you think that the answer is correct, put a tick beside it and keep listening to make sure. All right. يعني حاول إنك تفعل علامة بس لا توقف. اعمل علامة يعني اكتب وواصل مع المتحدث، واصل، ربما سيغير الإجابة. يعني مثلا أنت بتسمع يقول لك for example I really want to eat. Let's say this is a very easy question. I want to eat like apple, for example, banana or oranges. Let's say. For example, while you're listening, I'd really like to eat bananas. أنت تعمل علامة على الباناناز. But this time I'm going to eat like apple. امسح البنانا اكتب apple. فأنت امشي بعد عادي يعني انقل الإجابة الأولى بس تخلي حسك ورأسك وعقلك معه. يعني مو توقف خلاص تسمع أول كلمة وتوقف. لا، اسمع الكلمة وخليك مكانها معك وتابع. Okay, so don't spend more time than necessary if you miss an answer. Make a guess and move on. وهذه كارثة. يعني مثلا انك تنتظر، تحاول تبقى وتحاول انك تسمع الكلمة اللي في الخيار وهو يروح ويمشي ويسفح وانت في وادي آخر. هذه مشكلة ستكون عليك مشكلة حقيقية. إذا حسيت إنه الإكزامينر راح عليك وما انتبهت، خلاص خمن ومشيت بعده، الحق على الأسئلة اللي بعد. أوكي، لا تجلس عند واحد، بعدين إذا وقفت عند ثلاثة وما انتبهتش وموقف عند ثلاثة، أكيد راح تخسر 4 و5 و6، لأن أنت تلاحق 3 وضيعت 4، وبعدين تروح عند 4 وهو ب5، بعدين أنت ب5 وهو ب6. فلهذا حسيت إنه تأخر الرجال، ما جاء، ما سمعت، انتقل، تابعت على طول immediately، ولا أعمل أي تخمين، خلاص أنت وحظك، مع بالله حجرة ورقة مقص، إيش هتسوي؟ طيب إذا هذا بالنسبة ل choose the correct answer. choose the correct answer. طيب هذا إن شاء الله سنطبقه يعني في النصف الآخر من الوقت. طيب عندكم أيضا table completion، إكمال الجدول، ما راح أتكلم عليها اليوم. sentence completion، إكمال الجملة. You have also matching words، هذا سنتحدث عليه إن شاء الله. labeling map or plan. short answer questions. complete forms. Okay، هذا سنتحدث عليه لأنه في audio you will listen to this and also chose the correct answer. Also complete the forms، اكمل الشكل. الفورم زي الاستمارة يكون فيها، هذا غالبا يكون معلومات سهلة. This type of question often appears in the first section of the task في البدايات دائما. Normally the answers will be 1 or 2 words, actually 1 or 2 words, and this may be such as like phone numbers, dates, and times. These questions may seem relatively, for example, simple, but it would surprise you how many students throw away easy marks in this section. طبعا هذا يعتبر سهل الإكمال، لكن أكيد في طلاب عندهم أخطاء، يعني رغم سهولته إلا أنه الواحد مثلا قد يقع في الخطأ. عندما تريد تكمل مثلا الفورم الاستمارة، وراح نطبقها إن شاء الله. Read the instructions carefully and note the word limit. Look at the form, note, and try to understand it using the information already provided. Predict what you will hear. Try to predict the type of the word that you will hear based on the information provided in the table. Listen and fill the gaps with the correct answers. عندما تكمل الفورم، أول شيء اقرأ السؤال، هذا أول حاجة. لاحظ كم عدد الكلمات المطلوبة منك، الكلمة أو كلمتين أو 3، لا تخرج عن instructions. حاول تخمن إيش الذي راح تسمعه، هل اسم أو رقم أو address، عنوان، أو اسم شخص أو مكان أو أيا كان. وبعدين يعني اسمع، listen and fill the gaps. طيب إذا اليوم إحنا أخذنا فقط 2، راح نطبقهم سويا إن شاء الله، بس في معنا معلومات هنا مهمة. أول شيء البريدكشن، التنبؤ، مهم جدا. مثلا predicting enables you not only focus your brain on the part that you will hear, but more importantly like not focus on any other areas. يعني ما تركز ولا تتشتت في أماكن أخرى. مثلا for example name، اسم كذا، room number، رقم الغرفة، and number of occupants اللي هم الساكنين، هذا كلمة مهمة occupants، العدد تأتي في الامتحان، occupants اللي هو عدد الساكنين، and check out time. فمثلا هنا prediction actually, this example can accurately predict that you're going to hear a room number. أنت راح تسمع رقم غرفة، يعني رقم غرفة. الآن عقلك مركز على هذا، إنك راح تسمع رقم غرفة، يعني مو عقلك متشتت. فأنت خلاص اقرأ السؤال وقل خلاص أنا بسمع رقم، بسمع وقت. أنت بتركز على الوقت أو تركز على الرقم أو تركز على الشخص، بحيث إني بتكون سهلة إنه تسلط أو تخلي عقلك يركز على شيء واحد. Synonyms and paraphrasing مهم جدا أيضا. مثلا in listening test, it is normal that they read one word but you hear another one. For example, you may read cost, but actually you hear price. Price and cost the same. And this is called synonym, and IELTS listening test has a lot of synonyms. مهمات يعني أكيد. مثلا مغادرة، leave، ربما يقول لك departure مثلا، ولا arriver، ولا مثلا عندكم هنا زي كلمة fortnight معناها two weeks like. A common mistake is to read a certain word and try to listen to a word. This is because, for example, reading a synonym. فمثلا عندكم arrival date هذا ربما تسمعه, you will hear it the day you arrive. Similarly, you might read departure date, but you might, for example, hear date you leave. يعني ممكن أشياء أخرى. All right, so what else also here? And also make sure that you think about the type of information you might hear in the word of synonyms. يعني ركز على synonyms. ما راح تحصل يعني عادة نفس الكلمات اللي ستكون في الاختبار، راح تغير بس بكلمات ثانية بسيطة يعني. A good listening resource to help you improve your vocab. All right, so this is like a link.